Have you ever felt that inexplicable emptiness? That weight you can't name, but that's always there, whispering that something needs to change. Many people spend years searching for inner peace, reading books, watching videos, trying techniques, but the restlessness continues. Why? Because true peace doesn't come from the outside. It's born when you finally abandon the habits that steal your inner peace and begin to listen to what your soul has been asking for so long. The Bible tells us in Matthew 11:28, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." But here's the secret that many ignore, that rest only comes when we stop carrying what was never meant for us to carry. Highly spiritual people have discovered this. They understood that spiritual evolution begins with a courageous choice, letting go. Perhaps you're watching this video because you feel the time has come. Something inside you recognizes that there are destructive patterns in your life, small, invisible habits that drain your energy, steal your joy, and distance you from your inner self. And you know what's most fascinating? These people who live in profound peace weren't born that way. They simply learned to identify and abandon 6 specific habits. Today, you're going to discover what those habits are. But let me warn you right now, this isn't just another motivational video. At the end, I'm going to reveal something that can completely transform your understanding of how to find inner peace. A biblical truth so simple and powerful that, when applied, changes everything. Prepare your heart, because this journey begins now. And the first step is recognizing something that most people still haven't realized. You're carrying burdens that were never yours. There is a silent prison where millions of people live without realizing it. It has no visible bars, but it imprisons more than any chain. It's the toxic habits that harm the soul. You wake up, work, socialize, sleep, and in the midst of all this, you repeat patterns that block your spirituality without you even noticing. It's like carrying a backpack full of stones and wondering why the path is so heavy. Spiritually mature people have reached where they are because they did something radical. They stopped denying the obvious. They looked inward with brutal honesty and said, "These patterns no longer serve me." You know when you feel that inexplicable discomfort but try to ignore it. It's your soul asking for emotional and spiritual cleansing. Eliminating negative habits isn't about willpower, it's about awakening. Let me tell you the story of a man who knew this invisible burden well, Joseph of Egypt. He had every reason in the world to live embittered. He was betrayed by his own brothers, sold into slavery, slandered, and unjustly thrown into prison. If anyone had the right to carry anger, resentment, and a thirst for revenge, it was him. But Joseph chose differently. While in prison, he could have indulged in self-pity. He could have harbored thoughts of revenge every day. But instead, Joseph kept his heart free. He trusted in God's timing, served where he was, and maintained his integrity. When he finally had the chance to take revenge on the brothers who had destroyed him, do you know what he did? He wept. He forgave, and he said in Genesis 50:20, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good." Joseph abandoned the habit of harboring resentment. He understood something profound. Holding grudges doesn't hurt the person who hurt you, it hurts you. And it was precisely this abandonment that allowed God to elevate him from prisoner to governor of Egypt. Joseph's spiritual transformation began when he refused to let destructive habits control his soul. Now think, how many stones do you carry in your backpack? How many harmful patterns do you feed every day without realizing it? The good news is that you don't have to carry this alone. But to find true freedom, you need to know the specific habits that highly spiritual people abandon. And the first of these may be controlling your life right now without you even realizing it. Control. That word defines the lives of many people, controlling circumstances, people, results, the future, even trying to control God. And then comes anxiety, frustration, burnout. Why? Because you are trying to do the work that only the Creator can do. The first habit that spiritually evolved people abandon is the illusion of control. They learn that inner peace through spirituality doesn't come from holding on tightly. It comes from opening their hands and trusting. Proverbs 3:5-6 is clear. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, submit to him, and he will make your paths straight. Think about it. How many times have you lost sleep trying to solve something that was beyond your control? How many times have you tried to change someone who didn't want to change? How many times have you planned every detail of your life, only to see it all crumble? It's not your fault. It's simply the universe reminding you that you're not in control, and that's liberating, not scary. People who live with a high spiritual vibration have understood something simple. Letting go is not giving up, it's trusting. When you stop trying to control every detail, you open space for something greater than yourself to act. Emotional and spiritual detachment doesn't mean you don't care, it means you trust enough to let it flow. Imagine a child holding sand on the beach. The more they squeeze, the more sand slips through their fingers. But when they relax their hand, the sand stays there, peaceful. Your balanced spiritual life works like that. You can plan, work, do your part. But then you need to let go. You need to sleep peacefully, knowing that God is taking care of what you cannot reach. And when you finally let go of the controller, you realize something surprising. There was another prison holding you captive inside, one even more painful. Now the conversation becomes more intimate, because there's a voice that speaks to you every day. It knows your weaknesses, your mistakes, your shames. And you know the worst part? It has no pity. It's the voice of cruel self-criticism, the one that whispers, "You'll never succeed, you're not good enough, you always mess everything up." The second habit that highly spiritual people abandon is this destructive self-talk. Because daily spiritual growth is impossible when you are your own executioner. How can you raise your consciousness if you spend the whole day condemning yourself? The truth is simple. You will never treat others worse than you treat yourself, and you will never connect with the divine while feeling unworthy of love. Romans 8:1 brings us relief. Therefore, there is now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. If God doesn't condemn you, who are you to do so? Emotional and spiritual healing begins the moment you decide to talk to yourself with the same compassion that Christ has for you. It's not about perfection, it's about grace. Think about how you talk to yourself when you make a mistake. Now imagine talking to someone you love like that. Shocking, right? So why do you accept treating your own soul that way? People who maintain a spiritual mind have learned something revolutionary. Kindness begins at home. When you stop mentally destroying yourself, you begin to flourish spiritually. Look, since we've come this far together, I want to make you a quick invitation. If this video is touching your heart, please subscribe to the channel and leave a like. This helps this message reach more people who need to hear it today. And believe me, by subscribing here, you're committed to your own spiritual journey. Shall we continue? Self-criticism is a slow poison. It doesn't kill you all at once. It erodes you day by day until you believe you'll never be worthy of peace. But I have news for you. That's a lie. You were created in the image and likeness of God. There is divine light within you. And every time you choose to speak to yourself with love, you are honoring that sacred creation. But there's something even more treacherous stealing your peace. And it's happening right under your nose. Want to know one of the biggest joy thieves? Comparison. You look at other people's lives and forget to live your own. You look at their house, their job, their relationship, their spirituality, and you feel small. And then that painful question creeps in. Why does it work for them and not for me? The third habit that spiritually mature people abandon is comparison and competition. Because when you measure your worth by the success of others, you will never feel good enough, never. Each person's spiritual journey is unique, and trying to copy someone else's path is like wearing the wrong size shoes. You might walk, but it will hurt. Galatians 6:4-5 is straightforward. Each one should test their own actions. Then they can take pride in themselves alone without comparing themselves to anyone else. for each one should carry their own responsibility. God doesn't compare you to anyone. He looks at you and sees a masterpiece in progress. Why do you insist on measuring yourself by the standards of others? People who practice methods to raise their consciousness understand something profound. Their purpose is not to be better than someone else. It's to be true to their own essence. When you stop competing spiritually, when you stop envying others' journeys, something magical happens. You finally begin to walk your own path. And then, yes, inner harmony arrives. Do you know what the poison of comparison is? It blinds you to the blessings you already have. You're so busy looking at your neighbor's yard that you forget to water your own garden. And while that happens, your soul withers. The habits that block spirituality always have something in common. They take you out of the present and throw you into an illusion. But now the time has come to face something even more painful. Something you do every day thinking it's love, but that is suffocating your soul. How many times have you said yes when you wanted to say no? How many times have you betrayed your own convictions to keep the peace with others? How many times have you sacrificed your time, your energy, your essence, just to avoid disappointing someone? The fourth habit that highly spiritual people abandon is the obsessive need to please. Because when you live for the approval of others, you stop living for yourself. And worse, you stop living the purpose God has for you. Galatians 1:10 asks, "Am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of God? Or am I trying to please people? If I were still trying to please people, I would not be a servant of Christ." Think about it. You can't serve God and someone else's ego at the same time. When your balanced spiritual life depends on the opinions of others, you surrender your power. You become a slave to expectations, criticism, and judgment. And peace, that flees far away because you'll never be able to please everyone. Never. Authentic spiritual transformation happens when you finally allow yourself to disappoint those who need to be disappointed. Does it sound harsh? It might, but it's liberating. Because the moment you choose your truth over external acceptance, your soul breathes. You finally allow yourself to be who you truly are. Spiritually mature people have learned something crucial. Those who truly love you will love you even when you don't meet all their expectations. And those who only want you conditionally, well, that person was never truly on your side. Freedom from destructive habits involves this painful but necessary sorting process. Do you know what happens when you stop living to please others? You discover there's space inside you, space for your own choices, your own dreams, your own prayers. And in that empty space, God can finally speak without competing with the voices of all the other people you were trying to please. But there's something accumulated inside you that's weighing you down so much that you don't even realize it anymore. And it's time to cleanse it. Do you know what happens when you keep trash inside your house? It starts to smell bad. It attracts pests. It contaminates everything. And no matter how much you decorate, no matter how much you rearrange the furniture, that smell remains. The same thing happens to your soul when you accumulate unprocessed emotions. The fifth habit that highly spiritual people abandon is emotional hoarding, holding on to old grudges, repressing sadness, swallowing anger, pretending everything is fine when inside you're falling apart. This is one of the quickest paths to spiritual illness, because emotional and spiritual cleansing is not optional, it's essential. Psalm 34:18 promises something beautiful. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit. But for him to draw near, you need to acknowledge that your heart is broken. You need to stop pretending. You need to allow emotions to surface, to be felt, to be processed, and finally to be released. Do you know what the big mistake is? Thinking that spirituality is about always being at peace, always smiling, always vibrating high. That's a lie. People who are truly connected to their inner selves know how to cry when it's time to cry. They know how to feel anger and transform it into prayer. They know that emotional and spiritual healing doesn't ignore pain. It goes through the pain and comes out on the other side more whole. Think of Jesus in Gethsemane. He was distressed. He was sweating blood. He wept. He asked the Father, if possible, to take that cup away. He didn't pretend to be okay. He felt it deeply, and it was precisely in this vulnerability that his spiritual strength was revealed. He processed it, surrendered it to God, and moved forward. So stop accumulating. Stop pushing emotions under the rug thinking they'll disappear on their own. They won't. They'll only grow, fester, and one day explode. True connection with your inner self requires the courage to look inside and say, I need to cleanse this, I need to forgive, I need to let go. And now we come to the last habit, the one that sums up all the others and that may be stealing your peace right now. Run, run, run. That's the music of modern life. You run to work, to pay bills, to solve problems, to achieve dreams. And when you finally get what you wanted, you're already thinking about the next goal. And in the middle of all this rushing around, your soul screams, wait, I can't keep up with you. The sixth and final habit that highly spiritual people abandon is haste. Because living in a high spiritual vibration is impossible when your mind is racing, anxious, jumping from the past to the future without ever touching the present. Psalm 46:10 brings a simple but revolutionary command. Be still and know that I am God. Stop, breathe, feel. When was the last time you truly did that? Not while checking your phone, not while thinking about your next task, but did you really stop? Spiritually evolved people have learned something the world tries to hide from you. Haste is the enemy of presence. And without presence, there is no connection with God, no peace, no purpose. The truth is, God is not in a hurry. He created the entire universe in 6 days and rested on the seventh, not because he was tired, but to teach us an eternal principle. There is a time for everything. Ecclesiastes 3:1 confirms this. There is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. But you will only perceive these times when you slow down. Spiritual practices for inner peace require something radical in today's world: intentional slowness. Waking up 15 minutes earlier to pray without rushing, walking aimlessly, watching the sunset without taking pictures, talking to someone without thinking about the next meeting. This is not wasting time. This is finding purpose and peace. When you let go of the rush, something profound happens. You finally listen. You listen to your soul. You listen to God. You listen to what truly matters. And you realize you were running in circles, chasing things that would never truly fulfill you. A balanced spiritual life isn't about doing more. It's about being more present, more whole, more you. And when those 6 habits are finally abandoned, something miraculous happens. Something you may have forgotten is possible. Silence. Not that external silence that the world rarely offers, but inner silence. The kind that happens when the noises of the soul finally cease, when you're no longer trying to control everything, when you've stopped destroying yourself with self-criticism, when you've stopped comparing yourself to others, when you no longer live to please others, when you've cleared away accumulated emotions, when you've slowed down. That's where it happens. Rebirth. It's not something you achieve through effort. It's something that emerges naturally when you remove obstacles. Finding inner peace isn't about adding more things to your spiritual life. It's about removing what should never have been there. And when you do that, the peace that has always existed within you can finally manifest. Jesus said in John 14:27, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled and do not be afraid." Do you see? The peace of Christ does not depend on external circumstances. It exists independently of the chaos outside, but you only access this peace when you stop feeding the habits that block it. People who live a balanced spiritual life know something the world has forgotten. You don't need more. You need less. Less control, less self-criticism, less comparison, less need for approval, less emotional baggage, less haste. And when you empty yourself, God fills you. Philippians 4:7 promises, "And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." So here's the truth I promised at the beginning. Inner peace is not a destination. It's a conscious journey of letting go. Every habit you release is a weight off your shoulders, a chain broken, a door opened for the light to enter. And at the end of that journey, you don't become someone different. You finally become who you were always meant to be. Finding purpose and peace isn't about perfection. It's about direction. It's about waking up every day and choosing again. Today, I let go. Today, I trust. Today, I forgive myself. Today, I walk at my own pace. And when you do this daily, something transforms. Not all at once, not overnight, but little by little you realize you're breathing deeper, smiling more easily, sleeping better, finally living at a high spiritual vibration. This is your journey, and it begins now with a choice. If you've made it this far, you already know your soul is asking for change. You didn't watch this video by chance. Something inside you recognized these truths because it was already ready to hear them. And now the question is, what are you going to do with it? I invite you to begin today. Choose one of the 6 habits that most touched your heart and decide to abandon it this week. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be radical. Just start. Because spiritual transformation happens one step at a time, one conscious choice after another. Comment below which of these habits you'll work on first. Your sharing can inspire someone else struggling with the same issue. And if this video touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear this message. The inner peace you find isn't just for you. It's meant to overflow and reach other hearts. If you're not already subscribed, subscribe now and turn on notifications to receive more content about daily spiritual growth, practices to raise your consciousness, and how to live in inner harmony. We are building a community of people who have chosen the journey of spiritual evolution, and you are part of it. Remember what Jesus said? "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." That rest is available to you now. Not tomorrow, not when you're ready, now. Because you are already ready. Your soul knows it. I leave you with Isaiah 26:3. You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in you. May you find that perfect peace. May you trust in God's timing. And may those 6 abandoned habits make room for divine light to flood every corner of your life. The journey has begun, and you are not alone. May God bless your journey. Peace be with you.